When my son's fiancé looked me in the eyes and said, "Oh, we already got married yesterday. We only invited important people," something inside me didn't just crack. It died. I didn't scream. I didn't faint. I just stood in the middle of my own living room feeling like someone had reached into my chest and pulled out my heart with bare hands. Important people. I, who had paid their rent for 3 years. I, who had bought their couch, their bed, their dishes, their first Christmas tree. I, who had skipped my own medications to help them with emergencies. I was not important. My name is Helen Parker. I am 71 years old. For most of my life, I thought being a good mother meant one thing: give. And if that doesn't work, give more. When my husband Robert died, I poured everything I had left into our only child, Jacob. All my love, all my time, all my savings. It felt noble at first. Holy almost. Like proof that I had a purpose. Then Jacob brought Melissa home. She was beautiful in the sharp way that makes you nervous. Perfectly drawn eyebrows. Nails always done. Phone always in her hand. She hugged me tight the first time we met, called me mom by the second visit, and after a week she was sending me TikToks about mothers-in-law who are like second moms. I ate it up. I wanted to be that second mom. I wanted to be chosen. When they decided to move in together, I paid their first month's rent. Jacob had just lost his job, Melissa was between opportunities, and I told myself, it's just until they're on their feet. 1 month became 3. 3 became a year. A year became 3. Every first of the month, I sent $850 for their rent. Every other week, an extra 100, just until payday. When their old couch broke, I bought a new one. When their little car died, I helped with the down payment on another. When Melissa needed a root canal and Jacob's insurance hadn't kicked in, I handed over my card. I told myself I was investing in their future. I didn't realize I was financing my own erasure. So when Jacob told me they were thinking about setting a wedding date, I practically flew. I went to dress shops. I looked at shoes. I put $50 aside every week from my small widow's pension, planning a $1,000 gift for them. I pictured taking photos with Jacob, my only son, on his wedding day. I imagined Melissa and I laughing over cake flavors. I bought a light blue dress that made me feel 10 years younger. I hung it in my closet and looked at it at night before bed, fingers brushing the fabric like it was a promise. There was no set date yet. "We're still figuring it out, Mom," Jacob kept saying. But I wasn't worried. We had time. I trusted them. Then, one Thursday afternoon, they came over to talk. I was standing by the coffee table, phone in hand, about to ask what date they wanted me to keep free so I could book a hair appointment, when Melissa dropped the bomb. "Oh, we already got married yesterday," she said casually, sliding her bag off her shoulder like she had just come back from the grocery store. It was small. "We only invited important people." Silence. I watched Jacob's face, waiting for him to laugh and say, "She's kidding, Mom." He didn't. He stared at a spot on the carpet like a child waiting for punishment. I felt the world go distant, like I was watching the moment happen through a window. What do you mean already?" I asked. "We went to the courthouse," Melissa said, flipping her hair. "We didn't want drama. Just my parents, my brother and sister, and our friends. You know how stressful weddings are. Besides, you don't like to drive at night." She said it like she was doing me a favor. I had driven 3 hours in a snowstorm once to get Jacob to a pediatric appointment. "I would have come," I whispered. "I would have figured it out." Jacob finally opened his mouth. "Mom, it was last minute. We didn't want to bother you." Bother me? I thought of the rent I'd wired that very morning. I thought of the emergency $300 I'd transferred to Jacob's account 2 days before for some last-minute thing for Melissa. I tried to breathe around the lump in my throat. "Why didn't you even tell me?" I asked. Melissa shrugged, like the answer was obvious. "It was our day, Helen. We didn't want anyone making it about them. Our day. Anyone. Them." I swallowed my pain and forced myself to stand upright. "Congratulations," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded like an actress in a bad play. I hugged Jacob. He was stiff, like I was hugging a stranger. Melissa hugged me, too, perfume sharp and sweet in my nose. Oh, Mom, she cooed, suddenly soft again. We'll do a family dinner. Just us. Special, okay? Dinner. A consolation prize. That night, sleep didn't come. At 3 in the morning, I made the mistake of opening Facebook. And there it was. Melissa in an ivory lace dress, bouquet in hand, smiling like she'd won a prize. Jacob in a suit I'd never seen on him before. Melissa's parents, arms around them. Her siblings in matching colors. Friends. Champagne. Confetti. A cake. Caption. Best day of our lives. Surrounded by the people who matter most. I stared at the word matter. I thought of my blue dress hanging in silence in my closet. I thought of every rent payment, every grocery bag, every little envelope of just a bit to help. And for the first time in my life as a mother, I felt used. Not needed. Not loved. Not appreciated. Used. For 7 days, I waited for an apology. For an explanation. For something. Nothing. On the 8th day, my phone rang. Melissa. Helen, she said brightly. How are you? We haven't heard from you. Is everything okay? Everything? I felt my jaw clench. I'm fine, I said. Good, good. She cleared her throat. Listen, the rent is due, and the landlord is breathing down our necks. You must have forgotten to send the transfer this month. Could you please? I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the Facebook photos. Maybe it was the caption. Maybe it was the way she said forgotten, like I was a faulty app. All I know is words came out of my mouth that even surprised me. Oh, Melissa, I said calmly. Didn't I tell you I only help important people? Dead silence. Helen, what? She stammered. You heard me, I replied. You said it yourself, you only invited important people. I just decided to adopt the same standard. Helen, that's not fair, she said quickly. Her voice trembled, but there was steel under it. We're family. You're like a second mom to me. I closed my eyes. How many times had she said that while asking for money? Second mom when she needed a root canal. Second mom when she wanted a dress for an event. Second mom when she called about needing just a couple hundred to get through the week. I'm not an ATM with a hug function, I said. If I wasn't important enough to be at your wedding, I'm not important enough to pay your rent. She tried again. You're overreacting. I hung up. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. And yet, under the fear, there was something else. Relief. That night, I pulled out every box of old bank statements. Every notebook where I had scribbled amounts and dates so I wouldn't lose track. I spread them on the table like autopsy photos. 3 years of help laid out in cold numbers. Rent, $850 x 36 months equals $30,600. Groceries, at least $150 a month. Another $5,400. Car help, $2,800. Medical emergencies, $900. Furniture, $1,200. Gifts and holidays, $3,000. Total, $43,900. $43,900 taken from the life my husband and I planned for my old age. $43,900 taken from the trips we wanted to take, the house repairs I postponed, the art classes I never signed up for. $43,900 to keep 2 adults comfortable while they slowly erased me from their lives. I felt sick. I buried my face in my hands. For the first time, I cried not because Jacob hurt me, but because I had betrayed myself. The next morning, I drove to the bank with a tightness in my chest so strong I could barely breathe. Mr. Klein, the manager, had seen me many times. Always the same. Kind smile, trembling hands, request to transfer just a bit more to Jacob and Melissa. This time, I walked straight into his office. Helen, he greeted me. Did you want to cancel? I cut in. Everything. Every automatic transfer to my son and his wife. Block them from my accounts. All of them. He blinked. Are you sure? Did something happen? Everything happened, I said. I finally woke up. He studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. I'll cancel the transfers, he said gently. We can add extra security as well. Codes, alerts, passwords. You'll be the only one with access. As he typed, my phone buzzed. Jacob, the screen flashed. I let it ring. Buzz again. Melissa. I turned the phone face down. For once, other people's panic was not my emergency. When Mr. Klein was done, he hesitated. Helen, he said quietly, I've worked here for 25 years. You are one of the most generous people I've ever seen. But generosity without boundaries doesn't make you kind. It makes you a target. The words stung. They also healed. I left the bank feeling shaky but strangely light, like I'd finally taken off a backpack I'd been carrying so long I forgot it was there. When I turned onto my street, my newfound peace shriveled. Jacob's car was parked in my driveway. Melissa's was beside it. Behind them, an unfamiliar silver sedan. My heart started beating faster. My porch light was on in the middle of the afternoon. The curtains shifted in the living room window. They were inside. They had keys, of course. I'd given Jacob a set in case of emergencies. Apparently, I had to clarify what emergency meant. I took a deep breath, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. Jacob sat on my couch, elbows on his knees, fingers pressed into his forehead. Melissa paced in tight lines across the rug, arms folded. A man in a suit stood at my dining table, flipping through my papers. My papers. My financial records. My will. My medical documents. Spread out like exhibits. What do you think you're doing? I demanded. They all turned. For a split second, I saw guilt flicker across Jacob's face. Helen. Melissa rushed toward me, voice wobbly. Thank God you're here. We're really worried about you. You've been acting different. Who is this? I pointed at the stranger. He stepped forward, extending a hand I did not take. Mrs. Parker, I'm Dr. Alan Fisher, he said. I'm a family attorney. Your son and daughter-in-law consulted me because they're concerned about your decision-making capacity. My what? I asked. Jacob finally stood up. Mom, you canceled the transfers without telling us, he said, as if announcing a crime. You won't answer our calls. You're talking about boundaries and respect, and now you're getting defensive when we ask about your health. We think something's not right. Melissa nodded quickly, tears gathering in her eyes like well-trained actors. We just want to make sure you're safe, she said. You're alone in this big house. You're under so much stress. At your age, confusion is normal. Confusion. At your age. The phrases hit me like cold water. You went through my papers, I said quietly. Without my permission. You left them on the table, Dr. Fisher said. Given the situation, I thought it best to review them to see how we can protect you. Protect me by stealing control of everything I owned. My hands shook. I tucked them behind my back. You're not here to protect me, I said. You're here to protect your income. That's not fair, Jacob snapped. We depend on that help. You can't just cut us off, Mom. We have rent, bills, obligations. You are 35 years old, I replied. You are married. You've had 3 jobs in the last 5 years and quit them all because you didn't like your managers. That's not the point, he said. You promised you'd always help. I promised I'd always love you, I said. Those are not the same thing. Dr. Fisher cleared his throat. Helen, your son and daughter-in-law are prepared to request legal guardianship over your finances if necessary, he said. This doesn't have to be hostile. We can sign a power of attorney, and they can take care of your accounts so you don't have to worry. You want me to sign my life away because I stopped paying your bills, I said. Helen, Melissa said, tears spilling now. We're scared. You cut off our support suddenly. You're refusing to talk. You're making impulsive decisions. You got married without telling me. I cut in. You told me I wasn't important enough to be there. And you think I'm the unstable one. The room went very still. Dr. Fisher looked from me to them. Is that true? He asked. Melissa's jaw tightened. It's complicated, she said. No, I said. It's very simple. You took my money for years, then cut me out of your life when it was convenient. Now you're back because the bank door is closed. I think we should leave, Jacob muttered. We will pursue this legally, Dr. Fisher said, gathering his briefcase. You're clearly under distress. It may not be safe for you to manage your finances alone. Get out of my house, I said. Melissa shot me a look full of fury and something uglier, entitlement. This isn't over, Helen, she said. Everything you have is going to be ours one day anyway. We're just speeding up the process. Those words burned into my brain. Everything you have is going to be ours one day anyway. To them, I was not a mother. I was a waiting inheritance. After they left, I locked every door, every window, then sank onto a chair and cried until my body ached. Not just because of the wedding. Not just because of the invasion. But because of the realization growing like a dark stain in my chest. They had never seen me as a person. Only as a resource. The next morning, I called the only person I thought might really see me. Mr. Weber? My voice shook. This is Helen Parker. You handled my husband's will. Do you have some time? He did. I went to his office with a folder full of statements, notes, and the wilted remains of my pride. When I finished telling him everything, he sat back and blew out a breath. Helen, I'm very sorry, he said. But I'm not surprised. What your son and his wife are doing is called elder financial abuse. It happens more than you think. I winced at the phrase elder, but I didn't argue. What do I do? I whispered. We protect you, he said simply. We made a plan. Every transfer documented, every gift listed, letters drafted revoking any informal promises, a new will, updated to reflect the reality of who was actually in my corner, security measures recommended for my home. And Helen, he added, we're going to get an independent medical and psychological evaluation for you. Not because you need it, but because if they try to claim you're incompetent, you'll have solid proof you're not. The idea stung my pride, but the threat of guardianship stung worse. I'll do it, I said. When I came home that afternoon, there was a woman, sitting on my front steps, clutching a mug of coffee like a peace offering. Hi, she said, standing quickly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I'm Eleanor. I live 2 houses down. I heard the yelling yesterday. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. I felt my throat tighten. This stranger, this neighbor I'd barely noticed, cared more than the boy I'd raised. Do you have some time? I asked. She smiled gently. I do. Inside, over fresh coffee, I told her everything. The wedding. The money. The lawyer. The threats. She listened without interrupting, eyes soft with understanding. Helen, she finally said, I went through something similar with my daughter. Not this extreme with the courts, but the entitlement. The manipulation. The guilt. What did you do? I asked. I cut her off, she said. It was horrible at first. She said I didn't love her. She told the whole family I abandoned her. But after a while, when the money stopped flowing, she had to grow up. And eventually she came back as a different person. Not perfect, but honest. Do you think Jacob will ever come back? I whispered. She hesitated. Maybe, she said carefully. But whether he does or not, that can't be the reason you start protecting yourself. Her words pierced straight through me. All my life, I had made my choices around Jacob. Maybe for once, I needed to make them around me. The official evaluation with Dr. Moore was a strange experience. She was kind but sharp-eyed, the kind of woman who missed nothing. She asked about my childhood, my marriage, my habits. She gave me memory tests, asked me to solve puzzles, had me track sequences of numbers. At the end, she smiled. Helen, she said, I wish half my 40-year-olds had your clarity. You're absolutely capable of managing your own life. Her written report, when it came, was a small shield I wanted to tape to my chest. I was not crazy. I was not confused. I was not incompetent. I was just done being used. Jacob and Melissa were not done with me. They switched tactics. Blocked on my phone, they started calling from random numbers. When that stopped working, they tried email. The messages swung wildly between guilt trips and veiled threats. After everything we've done for you, you treat us like enemies. You're pushing away the only family you have. We're consulting another lawyer. This isn't over. Fine. Die alone then. Eleanor and I began to have coffee together every afternoon. Sometimes at my house. Sometimes at hers. Sometimes out on the porch where we could watch the world and feel less small. Through her, I met other women from the neighborhood. Maria, who'd cut off a brother who treated her like an ATM. Cynthia, the hairdresser who'd watched her own mother be drained by a manipulative son. Alfreda, 82, who had changed her will after learning her grandchildren called her their retirement plan. Their stories were different. The pattern was the same. So many mothers think love equals sacrifice, Alfreda said one day, stirring sugar into her tea. But sacrifice without respect isn't love. It's self-harm. The phrase lodged itself inside me like a seed. The lawsuit came at the worst possible time. It was a Thursday morning. I was in the backyard, hands covered in soil, finally replanting roses I'd neglected for years while running back and forth to Jacob's crises. My phone rang. Mr. Weber. Helen, he said, voice serious, they filed a formal petition for guardianship. Will be served papers within the week. I sat down on the grass. A petition meant court. Judges. Possibly strangers deciding whether I was allowed to make decisions for myself. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might pass out. What if we lose? I whispered. We won't, he said. They have accusations. We have facts. But you need to prepare yourself. It will be ugly. They will lie. They will twist your love into evidence against you. I thought of Jacob on the couch, head in his hands. Melissa pacing like a caged animal. The lawyer flipping through my papers like I wasn't in the room. I closed my eyes and felt a slow, cold anger settle inside me. I'm tired of being the one who bleeds, I said. Let them talk. I'm done being quiet. Court day came like a storm I could hear rumbling for weeks. I wore a simple dark blue suit. Not the soft cardigans I usually wore. Something that made me feel like a witness rather than a victim. Eleanor squeezed my hand in the hallway. If you get tired, look at me, she said. I'll be right there. When we walked into the courtroom, Jacob and Melissa were already seated with their lawyer. Jacob looked older than I remembered. Lines etched between his eyebrows. But the stubborn set of his jaw was the same as when he was 5 and refused to share his toys. Melissa wore a black dress like she was attending a funeral. Maybe in her mind, she was burying my independence. Their lawyer, a tall man named Grant, had the kind of smooth voice that could sell poison as medicine. Your Honor, he began, this is a sad case. My clients, Jacob and Melissa Parker, have watched with increasing distress as Jacob's mother, Helen, has displayed clear signs of mental decline, erratic financial behavior, sudden isolation, paranoia about security, and susceptibility to manipulation by strangers. I almost laughed. Isolation? I had never had more people in my life. Paranoia? I installed cameras because they broke into my house. Manipulation by strangers? The only manipulators in my life shared my last name. They called Melissa first. She walked to the stand with slow, deliberate steps, clutching a tissue. Melissa, Grant said gently, how would you describe your relationship with Helen? She's like a second mother to me, Melissa said immediately, voice trembling. At least, she used to be. We talked all the time. She helped us when we needed it. We loved her so much. But in the last few months, she changed. She started accusing us of using her. She changed her will. She put cameras in her house and said we were trying to steal from her. It's like she's not herself anymore. Did she ever discuss her finances with you? He asked. Only when she was confused, Melissa said. She'd say things like, I don't remember paying that, or did I already send you the money? It scared us. We worried she might be forgetting important things. Lies. Half-truth coated in sugar. Thank you, Grant said. Mr. Weber stood slowly. Melissa, he said calmly, let's talk about the wedding. Grant shifted. Objection, relevance. You open character and relationship counselor, Mr. Weber said. I'm entitled to explore it. The judge nodded. Overruled. Make it quick, Mr. Weber. Did you invite Helen to your wedding? Mr. Weber asked. Melissa's jaw tightened. It was a small ceremony. That wasn't my question, he said. Did you invite her? No, she finally said. Did you tell her in her own living room that you only invited important people? Faces in the courtroom turned. Those words are out of context, she started. What context makes that acceptable? He pressed. She didn't answer. Would you say excluding someone from an event this significant, after taking tens of thousands of dollars from them, is loving behavior? No further questions, he said, leaving the silence heavy. Jacob testified next. Looking at him on the stand, hand raised, swearing to tell the truth, nearly broke me. My mom has always been generous, he said. But lately it's like she's punishing us. She cut off the rent without warning. She blocked our numbers. She's being influenced by neighbors and some lawyer who wants money. Did she ever threaten herself? Gran asked. No, Jacob admitted. But she said she didn't see a point in living like this once. That was true. I'd said it once in the middle of crying at my kitchen table. About being treated like nothing by the only family I had. And how did that make you feel? Gran asked. Terrified, Jacob said. We just want her to be safe. When Mr. Weber cross-examined him, his tone was gentle but firm. Jacob, he said, how old are you? 35. How long did your mother pay your rent? He shifted. 3 years. How often did you visit her without asking for money? Silence. How often did you call just to see how she was? His lips pressed into a hard line. Is it true, Mr. Weber continued, that you and your wife entered her house without permission, went through her private documents, and brought a lawyer to pressure her into signing a power of attorney? We were trying to help, Jacob muttered. Help yourself, Mr. Weber said quietly. No further questions. They brought out their witnesses next. Mr. Davis, my across-the-street neighbor, testified that he'd seen new, strange people at my house and that I'd raised my voice several times like crazy people do. What were those strangers doing? Mr. Weber asked. Going in and out. Laughing. Drinking coffee, he said. You mean visiting, Mr. Weber said. Mr. Davis glared. Their final blow was a report from a psychiatrist, Dr. Lehman, who had never even met me in person, just reviewed the records they gave him. In my professional opinion, he said, the sudden change in financial behavior and tendency to cut off long-standing relationships suggests cognitive decline. Mr. Weber didn't cross-examine him much. He didn't need to, because then it was our turn. He called Dr. Moore. She testified clearly, explaining each test she administered and the results. In my clinical assessment, Helen Parker has full mental capacity, she said. She performed above average on all tests. Her decisions may be emotionally difficult for her family, but they are rational and consistent with self-protection. He called Mr. Green, the pharmacist, who admitted Melissa had tricked him into signing a vague statement. She asked if Helen had irregular medication use, he said. I said she mostly bought vitamins and occasional painkillers. She spun that into negligence. That wasn't fair, and I regret signing anything. He called Eleanor and my other friends. They spoke of my routines, my clarity, my growth. Then he called me. Standing there, hand raised, I thought I might crumble. But when I looked out and saw Eleanor's eyes on mine, steady and proud, I found something solid inside me. Mrs. Parker, Mr. Weber began, why did you stop sending money to your son? Because I finally realized I wasn't his mother, I said. I was his bank. The courtroom went quiet. For years, I thought if I kept paying, he would love me, I continued. Every rent check felt like a little ticket I was buying to stay in his life. But then he had the most important day of his life and didn't want me there. Not because I was sick. Not because I was dangerous. Because I wasn't important enough. The word caught in my throat. I saw the photos, I said. They had room for everyone else. Just not me. And suddenly, all those payments, all those sacrifices, they weren't proof of love. They were proof that I didn't have any boundaries. So I set one. I said no. And that's when I stopped being beloved mom and became mentally unstable. Mr. Weber let the silence hang. Do you regret helping them? He asked. I swallowed hard. I regret helping them like that, I said. Without limits. Without self-respect. I regret teaching them that my love could be rented. What do you want now? He asked. I took a breath. I want the basic dignity any adult is owed, I said. The right to decide where my money goes. The right to say no. The right to live the rest of my life in peace without being dragged into court by people who see my bank account more clearly than they see my face. My voice broke on the last word. He nodded. No further questions. Grant tried to poke holes in my testimony, but the harder he pushed, the clearer it became that I knew exactly what I was saying. At one point, he asked, Mrs. Parker, don't you think it's a mother's job to help her children? Yes, I said. Until they're grown. Then it's a mother's hope to see them stand on their own feet. He hesitated, then sat down. The judge retired to chambers. Every second he was gone stretched like rubber. When he returned, everyone stood. He adjusted his glasses, shuffled his papers, and looked at me first. "Mrs. Parker," he said, "this court has reviewed the evidence and testimony in detail." My palms were sweaty. He turned slightly. "Jacob and Melissa," he continued, "your concern for Helen would be more convincing if it did not align so neatly with your financial dependency." A flush crept up Jacob's neck. Melissa looked like she'd swallowed glass. "The petitioners have presented no solid medical evidence that Helen lacks capacity," the judge went on. "In contrast, the defense has provided a thorough psychological evaluation, consistent testimonies, and a clear pattern of elder financial exploitation." He dropped the last paper on the stack and looked straight at me. "This court finds that Helen Parker is fully competent to handle her own affairs," he said. "The request for guardianship is denied in full." I exhaled a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "But more than that," he added, voice firming, "I urge the petitioners to reflect deeply on the harm they have caused, not just legally, but morally. Family is not a license to control someone's life for your comfort." He banged the gavel. Case dismissed. It was over. Outside the courtroom, Eleanor hugged me so tightly I thought my ribs would crack. "You did it," she whispered. "You got your life back." Jacob lingered near the door, Melissa at his side. For a moment, our eyes met. His were wet. "Helen," he started. "Mom," I corrected quietly. "Mom." He tried again. "We were just scared. We didn't mean for it to go this far." Melissa snorted softly beside him. I studied his face, the face I'd kissed 1,000 times when he was little, the face I'd watched in school plays, at graduations, in hospital beds during fevers. I still loved him, but something had shifted. "I hope," I said slowly, "that one day you're more afraid of losing your integrity than losing access to someone's money." He flinched. "Helen," Melissa began. "I am done being your insurance policy," I said. "If you ever come back into my life, it will not be as my dependents. It will be as my equals." I turned away before my tears could fall. Behind me, Melissa muttered something about ingratitude. Jacob didn't say anything. It's been a year since that day. I sold the big old house and moved into a sunny apartment near the river. The kind of place Robert and I used to point at in brochures and say, maybe someday. Someday finally came. I took an art class. The first day I walked in with my hands shaking like a shy child. Now my paintings hang on my walls, bright and unapologetic. Eleanor and I still have coffee nearly every afternoon. Sometimes with Maria, sometimes with Cynthia and Alfreda. We've become a strange little sisterhood of women who learned, too late but not too late, that boundaries are not cruelty. I updated my will. Some of my money will go to charities that protect seniors from exactly what I went through. Some will go to a scholarship for kids who grew up with nothing and never expected a handout. And some I spent on trips, on good food, on a new dress that I bought just because it made me feel beautiful, not because I thought I'd wear it to someone else's celebration. Sometimes, late at night, I stand at my window and let myself grieve. I grieve the boy Jacob used to be before entitlement ate him alive. I grieve the version of myself who believed love could be bought like furniture. I grieve the years I spent proud of how much I was giving and blind to how little I was receiving. But under the grief, there is something new. Peace. Not the quiet, empty kind you get from keeping everyone else comfortable. The fierce peace that comes from finally choosing yourself. If you are listening to this and you recognize pieces of my story in your own life, maybe in a child who only calls when they need money, a partner who treats you like a wallet with feelings, a family member who uses guilt like a leash, I want to tell you something no one told me soon enough. Love without respect is not love. And help without boundaries is self-destruction. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to protect the life you worked for. I am Helen Parker. I am 72 years old, and I finally understand that the most important person I have to care for is not the person who shouts the loudest when I stop giving. It's the person who looks back at me in the mirror. And you? What would you do in my place? Would you keep paying for people who call you crazy when you finally say no? Would you fight for your freedom in court like I did? Would you walk away, even if it meant losing the only family you thought you had? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one because your stories remind me I'm not alone. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear that saying, enough doesn't make you evil. It makes you free. And if you want more real-life stories like mine, hit like, subscribe, and stay with me. We have many more truths to tell. With a full heart and a peaceful mind. Helen.